Okay, so the objectives for this week involved successful body paragraphs and how to have a smooth operating body of your essay, one that works with the thesis to support the thesis and to make specific points and to provide specific examples to reveal to the reader why your thesis is plausible. So you got a few handouts here. We're going to take a peek at the successful versus the unsuccessful essay again, which we looked at for introductions and conclusions. And then you've also got the readings to do from Better Writing from the Beginning and Composing Ourselves in Our World, okay? And so let's take a peek first at what goes into building a great paragraph. So you have this checklist here, and this is a handout that'll locate it in files. So what does a paragraph need to have? Okay, topic sentence, super important. These are the first 1 to 2 sentences of the paragraph. The topic sentence lays out to the reader what the paragraph is going to be about and how this paragraph works to support the thesis. The topic sentences also contain the transition, okay? So this is what helps the reader to move from the last paragraph into this paragraph, and we're going to talk a little bit about transitions and organization next after we go through the parts of a paragraph. So first 1 to 2 sentences, topic sentence, okay? How is this paragraph going to support the thesis and what is this paragraph about? Then you want to develop your idea, okay? This is when you're going to provide those specific examples. It's when you're going to show the reader exactly what you mean with your language. Maybe you have to explain it a little bit more than just a sentence or two. And then in the middle of the paragraph, after all, that is when we are going to utilize our sources, okay? Introducing the source is super important. You can't just throw a quote at a reader, okay? It needs to be set up. What I mean by that is give the reader a summary of the entirety of the source so that the reader has context for where this quote slash example slash paraphrase slash summary is coming from, and so the reader can see how it fits in to the source and then how it fits into your essay, okay? We also need to build authority, okay, which is another reason for introducing the source, okay? Renowned scholar X, wrote in book, blah, 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 which goes over, and then we introduce our quote with a signal phrase, okay? The signal phrase is very important. If a quote does not have a phrase that it is attached to that tells the reader how the quote fits into your idea and where it's coming from, it's called a dropped quote. Okay, we don't want dropped quotes. Okay, dropped quotes are like as if you were literally just throwing a quote at the reader and running away. Okay, so we need a signal phrase. A signal phrase could be, according to author X, according to this book. In addition to that example, here is another quote from book X, okay? This phrase is going to help the reader to put this stuff in conversation. See how your mind is putting these ideas together and why, okay? And then a very important part at the closing of the paragraph, this is where you dig into the explanation, analysis, and concluding ideas, okay? You can't just throw a quote at the reader and think that your paragraph is finished, okay? We don't end on a quote. We want to end on your ideas. You need to explain to the reader, even if you think it is obvious, beyond a doubt, that the reader could connect this idea or this example from the source to your thesis, you still need to explain it. Tell the reader exactly why this quote, this source, this example is in your paper. What is it doing there? Make connections to the other sources in your paper, to the other ideas in your paper. And using transition words and phrases is what's really going to help you. In addition to, Scholar X's work, Scholar Y, that I just referenced above, also is in agreement, okay? Make those connections very clear. Pretend like your reader has no idea what they're reading. The clearer you are, the more specific your language in the body paragraphs, the better your essay as a whole is going to be. So let's take a peek at the unsuccessful example first, I guess. cool. So we remember our thesis here. They give us freedoms like freedom of speech and freedom to practice religion. These things are important to Americans, right? So let's take a peek here at these first two paragraphs and analyze why they are not the most successful of paragraphs. Okay, so first body paragraph. Amendment 26 gives people who are 18 the right to vote. This means that anyone over 18 can have a say in the president. This is important because it gives the people a way to say who they think should be president. This is important since the U.S. was established because of the tyrant King George. The king made lots of rules over the people and didn't include them. He never listened to them. The people who started America were brave because they started this country even though they could have died fighting King George. Okay, let's parse that out now. Now, remember our paragraph checklist. We need a topic sentence, full development of the idea, quote, example, closing with explanation and analysis of the quote, your ideas, etc. So if we go by the rule that the first 1 to 2 sentences are a topic sentence, Amendment 26 gives people who are 18 the right to vote. It's just making a statement. We don't have a transitionary word to connect it to the thesis, which, by the way, is about freedom of speech and freedom of religion. I have no idea how the right to vote fits in with freedom of speech and freedom to practice religion, okay? We've got lots of repetition, okay? This means, this is, okay? Let's utilize specific language, as specific as we can possibly be. Amendment 26 means that anyone over 18 can have a say in the president, okay? If you can use a specific noun, use a specific noun. Avoid pronouns wherever possible. We also don't have any quotes. We have sort of an example here. This is important since the U.S. was established because of the tyrant King George, but there's no citation, and so I'm not sure, you know, where exactly the reader is getting it. I'm thinking it's the Declaration, but Amendment 26 is part of the Constitution, so again, not really sure, okay? There is no explanation. A little bit, we start to get to it, right? The people who started America were brave. Okay, so this is building on the example that we've got here. But again, lots of general words. The people who started America. Who were they? I have no idea, right? They were brave. Okay, what does that mean? Brave is a subjective term. Define it. Be more specific, right? Because they started this country even though they could have died fighting King George. How does this apply? Why is this paragraph important to the thesis? How does this paragraph make your essay successful? What does this paragraph tell the reader about not only your thesis, but the other ideas that you're presenting in this essay? Set up the next paragraph, okay, with that analysis and those concluding ideas in the last sentence or two. All right, let's take a peek at the second body paragraph. The Constitution lets people have peace of mind, too. Amendment 4 says that the government can't come into our homes and take stuff from them without a warrant. This is important because it gives us peace of mind, too. The people can say no and protect themselves, which is why the Second Amendment is important. It means that we have the right to guns to protect ourselves. It means that we, the people, can stand up for ourselves against people who want to take from us. And this is important because it means that we have the rights and the right to protect those rights against anyone who wants to take those rights away from us. Okay, a little bit more specific. The Constitution, okay, that's important. We didn't necessarily have that up here, right? We have Amendment 26, but then some info about the Declaration as well, okay? This paragraph at least gives us that, okay? But again, Amendment 4, not mentioned in the thesis. Not mentioned in body paragraph 1. No explanation for how this supports this thesis. Okay. And it also does not examine what the paragraph will be about because we've got a shift right here, which is why the Second Amendment is important. Whoa. We were starting out talking about Amendment 4. How'd we get to Amendment 2? Okay. Perfect example of two separate ideas that are only loosely connected if connected at all. Okay, so another thing you want to do in your paragraphs is focus. Okay, and this is why your topic sentence is so important. It's going to help the reader. It's going to help guide the reader through your ideas. B, it's going to help you, the writer, stay on track. You want to lay out one idea per paragraph. This is going to help to guide the reader, and this goes with transition and organization. Okay, when you maintain one idea per paragraph, it's easier for the reader to follow along, and it's also easier for you, the writer, to make sure that you've got everything that you need to say about that idea out before you move on to the next one. Okay, it's going to keep your essay on track. It's going to be the hand holder to walk your reader through your essay. Okay, so we want to avoid doing things like that. Let's take a peek at this essay. I'm just going to expand it because these paragraphs are a bit longer than the other one. Okay, so let's take a peek at the first body paragraph, and let's just revisit the thesis. The Declaration reminds the citizens that equality and fair treatment is worth fighting for, and that the citizens should stand together unified, and the Constitution gives us the legal avenue to obtain that goal. Okay, so that's our thesis. The Declaration opens with an introduction before it provides the direct charges against King George III. The introduction stands as a rallying cry to the people to stand together against England. The language of the document is intended to rouse the people by being inclusive. Phrases such as, quote, the unanimous declaration, end quote, quote, one people, end quote, and quote, we, end quote, created a sense of unity among the colonies in the 18th century and continue to provide those effects. By using language that established the settlers in the colonies as the same we as, quote, we as Congress and higher officials, it empowered the people. When looking over the charges against King George III, it can be said that the people had no agency in their previous situation, and even government officials had little power against the king and his demands. It is important that the first document to come from the United States of America included all people because it set the precedent that we would stand together against injustice and that we would fight together against cruel treatment from any tyrant. All right, here's another important organization note. Okay, look at how the ideas pop up in the thesis. Okay, the first idea, the Declaration reminds the citizens that equality and fair treatment is worth fighting for and that the citizens should stand together unified. That's what we're covering basically here, right? The writer is going into how it is a rallying cry, right? It combines the people, one people, we, the unanimous declaration, and then explains how that is important, right? By using language that established the settlers as the same we as Congress, it empowered the people, all right? We also stay on topic. Every sentence in this paragraph answers back to these two main topic sentences here. It doesn't veer off. All right, it doesn't talk about another part of the Declaration. It focuses in on exactly what's in the main topic sentence, the introduction, and how it stands as a rallying cry to the people to stand against England. Notice we've also got a couple of quotes from the document. Okay, little snippets. Could have been more. Could have taken a larger quote, or something maybe a bit longer to examine. Okay, but in the same breath, it's still at least some examples, right? So I hope what you're seeing with this successful versus unsuccessful essays is that there is always room for improvement, no matter whether your essay is successful or it's unsuccessful. Even this essay here that I believe it got like a B or a B plus. It still has room to improve, and that's part of writing. Part of writing is moving through that and doing that. For successful paragraphs, now we're going to talk about how they should come together, what order they should be in, and how we should show the reader how they connect. And that's how transitions and organization are going to help you here, okay? So transitions and organization work together. These are the hand holders, remember, of the reader, okay? They're going to hold the reader's hand and walk them through and show them all of these wonderful examples that you're presenting to them. The transitions help to make connections between ideas, whether it be between paragraphs or between, your ideas and your source's ideas, okay? These are just like the smoother outers of the essay. And organization refers to the order in which you put your ideas, the order in which the body paragraphs appear in the essay. All right, so the order that you present your ideas is really important, okay? You want to set up foundational information right at the get-go, okay? What does the reader need to know to understand the next paragraph? Just like the intro is going to do that for the thesis, right? The intro is going to answer that question. What does the reader need to know to understand my thesis? Organization is going to do something something like that as well, okay? You want to present ideas that will set the foundation for the ideas that come later. You need to establish information before moving on to complex and abstract ideas. The thesis also works, as we said before when we were going over the successful essay, right? It sets up the order in which ideas are going to be presented, okay? So it's going to reflect the order, and as you adjust the order, as you edit the order of the body paragraphs, you should in turn be editing the thesis, okay, so that it reflects it. Remember, the thesis gives the reader that heads up necessary to understanding. All right, so we've got an example outline here for a rhetorical analysis of this Dolce & Gabbana ad. So hopefully this will serve as both an example of how to organize your essay and how to create transitions, but also what I'm looking for in essay 2, okay? So, introduction. What is this ad for? Summary of ad, presentations of visual to help the reader understand the next analysis, okay? And then we've got the thesis statement. The Dolce & Gabbana ad appeals to pathos for a reaction from the viewer, but lacks other rhetorical approaches. By eliciting a powerful emotional response, the ad generates discussion, and the audience views the ad because of what they are hearing about it. Okay, so now let's make sure that we stick with that order that we set things up, okay? So, first paragraph of the essay will answer the question, how does the ad invoke an emotional response? Oh, okay, yeah, because remember, this is what we got here. Dolce & Gabbana appeals to pathos for a reaction from the viewer, okay? So, body paragraph presents, and then here are my details. Here are my topic sentences, an example, okay? My next body paragraph will examine the lack of other appeals. Notice how these next two ideas came in the thesis, right? Lacks other rhetorical approaches. Okay, body paragraph 6 be about logos, 7 about lack of ethos. Actually, you should have done another paragraph on the lack of kairos as well, but that's kind of unclear in this ad. Okay, so how is it successful? By eliciting a powerful emotional response. The ad generates discussion. Let's go back up to the thesis. Here we go. Okay, so you see how it's establishing that order in which ideas appear. All right, so what I would suggest for this body paragraph 1, defining an appeal to pathos so the reader understands what I mean when I say that the ad is employing pathos, okay? When I go on to talk about these specific aspects, okay, they'll understand because they have an idea, a clear idea of what an appeal to pathos is and what the definition is. Now, transitions, 2 different kinds. Transitions between paragraphs, transitions within paragraphs, okay? Transitions between paragraphs are words or phrases that connect this paragraph to the one that came before it, or they might come at the end of the paragraph to set the reader up for what's coming next, okay? They present the way in which the ideas will answer back to the thesis, how the thesis is plausible, and how the idea builds on the other ideas that you have presented. For example, a transition between paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. Let's see, paragraph 5, paragraph 6. Paragraph 5 is power and dominance, okay? Paragraph 6, starts here a lack of logos, okay? So we're doing a big shift here, right? There's a shift from ethos to logos, okay? While there is no clear appeal to pathos presented in the sexual and violent depiction, or while there is a clear appeal to pathos presented in the sexual and violent depiction, there is no appeal to logos, okay? Notice how I connect by beginning with the idea of the previous paragraph and close the sentence with the idea of this new paragraph, okay? Great subordinating word here, while, indicates that there is a contrast, okay? The next sentence might look like this. An appeal to logos would be supported through the use of, okay, so now I'm setting up definitions. Remember, the reader needs to know stuff first, right? We got to define it first. Okay, so putting it together, this is how the paragraph would start. While there is a clear appeal to pathos presented in the sexual and violent depiction, there is no appeal to logos. An appeal to logos would be supported through the use of statistics or facts that would support the argument. This ad lacks information or objective facts to support why a viewer would want to purchase from Dolce & Gabbana. Okay. So, first couple of sentences of the paragraph. Remember, they provide transition. How does this paragraph connect to the other paragraphs, to the thesis? What is this particular paragraph going to be about? I have all that information here. How it connects, what this paragraph is going to be about. Now, within paragraphs, you might have to transition between, say, your ideas and your source's ideas, your ideas and an example, or, an image that you wanted to describe, okay? So, using transitions within sentences are really useful. They also help you to build up the ideas in the body paragraphs because they help the reader to make connections, right? We could have a sentence like, there are other appeals to pathos. There is also the violence and dominance, okay? Or we could utilize stronger transitions, if we combine those sentences and utilize something like however or moreover, this is going to help to build for your reader and guide your reader, okay? Moreover, there are other appeals to pathos, okay? Yeah, simple transition, okay? We've got our transitionary word here that's connecting to the previous idea, saying, hey, still on the same path, but I'm adding something else to the conversation. Versus, while the center figures are depicting a violent scene of dominance, the surrounding figures are at ease, okay, for a more descriptive way in which we're transitioning. Second option is more dynamic. It makes a stronger connection, a more specific connection for the reader, okay? We don't want the reader making assumptions, okay? That is the enemy of your essay. That weakens your essay, okay? That's how you're going to have an unsuccessful essay. All right, and so closing with these two examples, okay? So the center of the ad becomes the focal point. The male figure is shown restraining the female figure. This depicts the dominance of the male in the situation. This elicits an emotional response from male viewers because it appears empowering. This elicits an emotional response from female viewers as they are angry at the depiction of another woman in this situation. There are also viewers in the background of the situation. The ideas are just sort of loosely floating around, right? How are they connecting to anything? They're not connecting to each other here. I don't have much in the way of, there's some example, but it's very unspecific, okay, versus this. The center of the ad is the focal point, and it presents a male figure dominating a female figure. The position of their bodies tells the reader that this is a sense of dominance because the male is restraining the female as he pins her hands above her head and she arches her body in a pose that indicates her fighting against the restraints. Notice, too, how the language is filling out. I'm not just saying this depicts dominance. I am telling the reader what I want them to see, right? Contradicting emotional responses occur depending on viewer, okay? Oh, our good friend Colin. While a male viewer may feel empowered by the dominance, a female viewer would be angry. Moreover, look at that transition, okay? So I'm adding to the previous idea, but here's some more. I'm going to hit you with some more. Moreover, there are three male figures who are at ease in the background. This adds reinforcement to the empowerment of the central male figure and unease for the female viewer, as she not only feels the fear of the central female figure, but is enraged by the casual stance of the male figures who are standing by. So much better, right? I have a much clearer idea of what is going on versus this very simple, this depicts dominance, right? All right, awesome. Hope you are enjoying writing essay 2. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns, want any help, or want to do a private meeting.